By the end of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, you very much feel like a hero. Assuming, of course, that you played the canonical ending of the game, that being the light side ending, wherein which you fall in love with Bastila, destroy the Starforge, and end the threat of the Sith Empire. Throughout the story, the Jedi relied on us like no other. They relied on Revan. Of course, they were hesitant to reinduct him into the Jedi Order after all of the terrible things he did, but at its conclusion, Revan stands on the steps of the Temple of the Ancients. He is given the Cross of Glory, the greatest military honor within the Republic military, and Vandar declares Revan the Jedi's prodigal knight. Prodigal being literally somebody who has returned home after leaving in a negative way, and knight meaning Jedi Knight. And yet, all of this didn't matter, because despite everything he had done and the fact that Revan was lauded as a hero, the Jedi Order in their hypocrisy despised him in private and viewed him as nothing more than a heretic. But before I get into why they hated him and how hypocritical this was, I'd like to take a short moment to talk about today's video sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Star Trek Fleet Command, a free 4X Star Trek MMO that you can play on your PC or mobile. Collect iconic characters, form grand alliances, and build epic fleets of legendary starships. And not only do they have new missions, ships, and characters monthly, but there's a big Strange New Worlds event coming which will include one of my favourite Trek villains, the Gorn. So download the game for free with my link in the description, and if you reach level 5, you'll be supporting me and the channel directly. Now, Revan had achieved 3 key things by the end of Knights of the Old Republic. 3 things that in reality gave the Republic, and in turn the Jedi Order, an almost total victory. The first thing was the destruction of the Sith Academy. It's been stated that Revan killed all of the core Sith that were in the Korriban Academy after he had found the star map, and without a seed of learning and a proper hierarchy, those that survived in Dreshdai ended up having a civil war and they destroyed themselves. The second thing was the death of Darth Malak. While there were of course many Sith, none of them had the know-how, the power, the control, or even the technical understanding of what was trying to be achieved. And there was nobody really strong enough to become the next Sith Magnus after Malak's demise. And lastly, of course, was the destruction of the Starforge. This was the Sith Empire's war machine, and while its destruction wouldn't have been the end for the Empire, without it, keeping up their control, dominion, and constant expansion was almost impossible on a material level. And the truth is, if Revan had not removed all 3 of these specific things in tandem, the Sith would have likely just kept coming. For example, if the Starforge had survived, somebody would have taken it over. Whether that was another Sith, a Dark Jedi, a random faction, or a different empire 3 years from that point or 300, it would have been devastating. If the Sith Academy had survived, it's likely another Sith Lord would have continued the stable training of the Sith and perhaps reunited them under a new banner, which to an extent is what happened with the Sith Triumvirate. And if Darth Malak survived, well, he had the power, the knowledge of the Rakatan technology, and the loyalty of those behind him to continue the war. And so with these 3 moves, Revan had essentially called checkmate on his former Sith Empire. Now there was one thing that gave Revan the strength to achieve all of these incredible things. The Force bond that he shared with Bastila, and the eventual love that formed between them which saved them both from the dark side. In Revan's case, it was Bastila's decision to save him from certain death aboard his flagship after Darth Malak betrayed him. And in return, it was Revan's choice not to give up on Bastila on the Starforge, despite the fact her mind had been twisted and her body tortured. And these moments had intensified the Force bond in such a unique way, and it was their experience with it that made them realize it wasn't something to fear. It wasn't something to reject, but something that made them stronger individually and together. But the true insult of the Jedi would come a small time after the events of the game, because in all of their wisdom they gave Revan and Bastila a choice to essentially become Jedi Padawans again, and begin full training under a new Jedi Master. And this is where the Jedi began to despise him, because to Revan, he believed he did not need a Jedi Master. After all, he had achieved something no Jedi had done before. He single-handedly crippled an entire Sith Empire. His power was far beyond that of a Padawan. In fact, his power was far beyond that of most Jedi Masters. And so the two Jedi rejected the Council's demands and instead embraced their Force bond, marrying each other to the Jedi's disgust. Internally, the Jedi Council were bewildered that Revan would go against them in such a way. Despite everything they had given him, a new chance at freedom, at redemption in their eyes, he would turn his back on the Jedi Order's doctrine and codes. But the truth is, Revan believed in the Jedi, despite the fact that they didn't believe in him. And so after his wedding, and after processing everything that happened during the Jedi Civil War, he went to the Jedi with a proposal, sharing his story, his feelings, his beliefs, and his new understanding of the Force. One in which a Jedi should not refuse their emotions, but embrace them in a way that was controlled, that was honest and true to one's heart. Not only did he believe, but he had first-hand experience that this allowed you to connect with the Force on a brand new level that the Jedi had been afraid of for so long, and more importantly allowed Jedi to connect with other Jedi and create bonds that could potentially save them from the dark side. Now in this moment, you would think the Jedi Order would take some time to reflect. It was not the actions of the Order that saved the galaxy. It was not their doctrines or their code. It was indeed a bond formed between two people that evolved into love and saved them from the dark side. This love had given them the strength to obliterate an entire Sith Empire. Thousands of Sith dead and gone. They saved the Republic, but no. The Jedi, in their arrogance, in their dogma, rejected Revan totally, to the point of being enraged at the very idea of even bringing this up to the Council. And so they deliberated when Revan left, and many members of the Council actually wanted to banish Revan from the Jedi Order for his beliefs, despite the fact he had saved them all. However, some smarter members of the Jedi Council realized this would be a terrible thing to do, because by this point, Revan was the prodigal knight, a galactic hero not only to the Jedi, but to the people of the galaxy. And so, in their politics, they schemed, and the Council offered Revan an ultimatum, one riddled with blackmail. Instead of banishing Revan, they would grant him the title of Jedi Master. He would be lauded as a hero within the Jedi Order, and his marriage would not be objected to or spoken out against. But in exchange, Revan was to never share his beliefs with anybody in the Jedi Order, especially Padawans. He was to be silenced. And of course, if Revan refused, he would be banished. Now this enraged Bastila, who at this point had grew totally disillusioned with the Jedi, realizing that they were dogmatic, blind, and unwilling to see things from a different point of view beyond their own. But for Revan, he had just fought an entire war with the Sith, and he was tired. He was not ready to fight a philosophical and ideological war with the Jedi. And so he agreed just to keep the peace, never sharing his teachings, but even so, many of the Jedi Order looked down on him in disgust. They would mock his marriage to Bastila and the way he believed in the Force, and they would mock his disregard for the Jedi Code until the very day he disappeared. However, there was a tinge of irony to all of this, because it was only a few years later that the entire Jedi Order would be obliterated from existence, and it was their scheming and inability to look beyond themselves that essentially caused it. And there was one Jedi who eventually saved the Jedi Order from themselves and rebuilt it from the ground up with an ideology that was much closer to Revan's for a time. So Revan, in a way, got the last laugh in the tragic comedy that was the Jedi Order he had served. It really does mean a lot to me that you made it this far into the video, and I have a question for you today. Is there any specific topic that you want me to cover? While I have a massive list of videos to make, I'm interested in knowing directly from you guys what you want to see. So let me know down in the comment section below. As always, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button, it helps me out so much, and if you haven't, perhaps consider subscribing to join the biggest growing Knights of the Old Republic community on YouTube. And if you want some more awesome Revan content like this, you should check this video out. Here is 50 awesome facts about Revan that you likely didn't know. I'll see you there.